Okay, so let's continue to do the practice. This is week 14, and today we will the topic is Anova, one-way Anova. Okay, so in the same file in the is the one-way Anova list file open, and in here we can see the test 1 in the lecture, and we use an example about the draw diagram. Suppose we test the belief the diagram increase libido. They take 3 groups of people and administer one group with the placebo like sugar pill, one group with low dose of Viagra, and one with a high dose. And the dependent variable was objective measure of libido. In the lecture, we established 2 useful plan comparisons that we could do to test this hypothesis. And the first one had dose of Viagra will increase libido compared to not have any, and the second one, having high dose of Viagra will increase libido more than a low dose. Okay, so we can see they enter the data into SPSS, created 2 variables, one called dose, which specify how much Viagra the person will give, and the one called libido, which indicate the person libido. Open the following week. You can call the variable dose any way you wish, but I recommend something simple such as 1 is placebo, and 2 is a low dose, and 3 is a high dose. And save the data onto the disk in a file called Viagra.sav. And using what we learned in the lecture, do a one-way Anova to test whether Viagra have significant effect on libido, and also define contrast to test the 2 hypotheses, and a complete answer. Okay, so this is the table. So you can see the dose and the libido, these 2 variables. We can open this SPSS file, Viagra, this .sv this file. Okay, so we can see the first one is the participant, and the second one is the dose and the libido. Okay. So to conduct a one-way Anova, we have to first access the main dialog box by select, analyze, compare, means, and we choose the one-way Anova. And this dialog box have a space where you can list 1 or more dependent variable, and the second space to specify a grouping variable or vector. Vector is another term for independent variable. And for the Viagra data, we need to select only libido from the variable list. Libido, okay. And drag it to the box label dependent list, libido. Then select the grouping variable dose and transfer it to the box label vector. Okay, dose vector. Okay. And next we click on the contrast to access the dialog box that allow you to conduct plan comparison. And the dialog box is shown have two sections. The first section is for specified trend analysis. If you want to test for trend in the data, then tick the box label polynomial and select the degree of polynomial you would like. And the bar graph data have only 3 groups, and so the highest degree trend there can be a quadratic trend. It's important from the point of view trend analysis that we have called the group variable in a manifold order. We expect libido to the smallest in the principal group, to increase in the low dose group, and then to increase again in the high dose group. Okay, to detect manifold trend, we need to have called this group in ascending order. We have done this by coding the principal group with the lowest value 1, and the low dose group with the middle value 2, and the high dose group with the highest coding value 3. If we would code the group differently, this would influence both whether a trend detected, and if by chance a trend is detected, whether it is meaningful. For the bar graph data, there are only 3 groups, and we should select the polynomial option, and then select the quadratic degree by click on, and then select quadratic. Okay, if quadratic trend is select SPS will test for both linear and the quadratic trend. And the lowest part of the dialog box is for specified trend comparison. To conduct trend comparison, we need to tell SPS what way to assign to each group. The first step is to decide which comparison you want to do, and then what way must be assigned to each group for each of the contrast. We saw in the lecture that a sensible set of contrasts would be to compare the two experimental group to the control group, and the low dose plus high dose vs placebo as control 1, and compare the low dose to the high dose in the second contrast, and the weight for contrast 1 would be -2 placebo group, and +1 is low dose group, and the high dose group is +1. We will specify this contrast. First, it is important to make sure that you enter the correct weighting for each group, so you should remember that the first weight that you enter should be weight for the first group. That is the group code with the lowest value in the data editor. For the bar graph data, the group code with the lowest value was the placebo group, which have the code 1, and so we should enter the weighting for this group. First, click the box labeled coefficient with the mouse, and type the -2. -2 in the box, and click on Add. Next, we input the weight for the second group, which for the bar graph data in the low dose group, because this group was called in the data editor with the second highest value. Click in the box labeled coefficient with the mouse, and then type 1 in the box, and click Add. Finally, we need to input the weight for the last group, which for the bar graph data in the high dose group, because this group was called with the highest value in the data editor. Click in the box labeled coefficient with the mouse and the type 1 in the box and create. The box should now look at this one. Okay. Once you have input the weighting, you can change and or remove any one of them by using the mouse to select the weight that you want to change. And the weight you will then appear in the box label coefficient, where you can type in new weight and then click on change. Alternatively, you can click on any of the weights and remove completely by click remove. Okay. Underneath the weight, SPS calculate the coefficient total should equal 0. Okay. If you have used the correct weight, if coefficient number is anything other than 0, you should go back and check that the contrast you have planned makes sense, that you have followed the appropriate rule for assigned weight. Once you have specified the first contrast, click on Next. And the weight that you have just entered will disappear, and the dialog box will now read the contrast too. Okay. The weight for the contrast 2 should be 0 principal group and the negative and positive 1 low dose group and the negative 1 high dose group. Okay, so this is the to be 0 positive. One and the negative 1. We specify this contrast as before. Remember that the first weight we enter will be for the variable group. We must enter the value 0 as the first weight. Click on the box label coefficient, we type 0. Next, we need to input the weight for the low dose. Click on the then type 1, and finally we need to input the weight for the high dose group is the negative 1. Okay, you should notice that the weight add up to 0 as they did for the contrast 1. Okay. Okay, let's continue. Okay. Once you have told SPSS which plane comparison we have done, we can choose to do some post-hoc test. Normally, if we have done plane comparison, we should not do post-hoc test because we have already tested the hypothesis of interest. Likewise, if we choose to conduct post-hoc test, then plane contrasts are unnecessary because we have no hypothesis to test. However, for the sake of space, we will conduct some post-hoc tests and on the background data. And click post-hoc. Okay. To access the post-hoc test dialog box, and and the choice or comparison procedure will depend on the exact situation you have and whether it's important for you to keep strict control over the family-wise error rate or to have greater statistical power. Okay, so you choose the turn key, and the REGWG, okay. When you have the equal sample size and you are confident that your population variance are similar, then use the REGWG or turn key because both have the good power and the tight control over the type 1 error rate. Okay. And if sample size are slightly different, then use the Gabriel procedure because it has greater power. But if some sample size are very different, use the Hochberg GT2. And if there is any doubt that the population variance are equal, then use the Games-Howard procedure because these seem to generally offer the best performance. Okay, and you choose the first and the control, and you choose the Games-Howard. Okay. Okay. And I recommend run the Games-Howard procedure in addition to any other test you might select because of the uncertainty of knowledge where the population variance are equivalent. And for the micro data, they are equal sample size, and so we need not use the Gabriel test. And we should use the turn key test and the REGWG and check the finding with the Games-Howard procedure. And we have a specific hypothesis that both the high and the low dose groups should differ from the placebo group, and so we could use the Downey test to examine this hypothesis. Once you have selected Downey test, change the control category. The default is use the last category and specify the first category be used as a control category because the placebo group was the code with the lowest value. You can also choose whether to conduct a two-tier test or one-tier test. If you choose one-tier test, then you must predict whether you believe that the mean of the control group will be less than the experimental group or greater than the experimental group, because we predict the micro group will have larger means than the control. Choose a one-side test. These are all of the post-hoc tests they need to specify, and when the complete dialog box looks like click on the continue. And the next one, you create the option. And the option for the one-way ANOVA is fairly straightforward. First, you can add some descriptive statistics, which will display a table of the mean, standard deviation, standard error, range, and the confidence interval for the mean of each group. This is useful option to select because it assists in interpreting the final result. Select homogeneity of the variance test too. And we saw in the last handout okay, so this descriptive and you can homogeneous and the brown and the which with the mean plot will continue. Okay, so the select bootstrap won't do anything useful to main app test. Okay, so this is we don't choose the bootstrap. Okay, so okay. So you can see the output. Okay, so this mean plot is show arrow bar chart of the background data. Okay, the line edit the linear trend in that as the dose of background increase, so the mean level is of the libido. Yeah. And we see the output 1. Okay. The first one, we see the Rabin test. Okay. So this test homogeneity or variance show the Rabin test. Okay. For this data, the variance are very similar. Very similar. Okay. In fact, you look at you look at some descriptive statistics, you can see the variance of the placebo and the low dose group are identical. Okay, you can see the placebo low dose standard deviation, the variance. Okay, so this the Variance test. So now significant is significant. The value is less than 0.05. Then we can say that the variance of significant different, and the assumption of homogeneity of variance has been violated. Okay. So you can see the Variance test it's not significant. Okay. So this means the variance is the similar. Okay. And the output, you can see the Anova list. And this table shows the main Anova summary table. Okay. And then the table is divided into between group effect and within group effect. Okay. The between group effect is further broken down into linear and quadratic component. These components are the trend analysis described earlier, and the between group effect label combined in the overall experimental effect. The overall effect then brought down because we ask SPS to conduct trend analysis of this data. Okay. Have we not specified this, then these two rows of the summary table will not be produced. The row label within group give the detail of the unsystematic variation within the data. Okay. And the test of whether the group means are the same is replaced by the F ratio for the combined between group effect. The value of the ratio is the 5.119, and the final current label is significant, and indicate how likely that on the F ratio on the list that size would have occurred if there were actually no difference between means. And in this case, they have a probability of 0.025. We can say there is a significant effect of bar graph because the value is less than the commonly used threshold of 0.05. Okay. And you can see the linear trend F ratio is 9.966666. Okay. The value is significant. Okay. And at 0.008. Okay, so you can see that. Okay, so let's see this contrast test. Okay. The first thing to note is the statistics are produced for situations in which the group variance are equal and when are unequal. Okay, and if the Variance test was significant, then you should read the part of table label equal variance not assumed. However, for this data, the Variance test was not significant, and we therefore use the part of table label equal variance assumed. The table tells the value of the contrast itself. The associated t-test and the two tell significant value. Hence, for the contrast one, we can say the test by graph significant increased libido. Okay, so you can see the assumed equal variance. Okay, so the contrast one, we can say test significant increase libido. Okay. The Vajra significant increase libido compared to the control group is the p value is the 0.029 and is significant, but contrast to tells the high dose of the Viagra doesn't significantly affect the libido compared to the low dose. The p-value is the 0.065. Okay. Of course, contrast 2 is almost significant, which demonstrates my point earlier in the model. The significant test can lead you to very or nothing thinking. It might be useful to compute some effect size. Okay. And you can see the post hoc. Okay. Okay, so the output you can say there's a significant effect. You can see You can see the Anova. Okay. Okay, so that's a signal effect of bike. You can see this one, and the effect of background on level or libido. The F value is the 5.119, and the P value is the 0.025. Notice that the value of F ratio is predicted by the value of the degree of freedom for the effect. The linear contrast can be reported in much the same way. And there was significant linear trend. You can see in here. Linear trend. F value is the 9.966 and the P value is the 0.008. Indicate that dose of Viagra increase, libido increase proportionally. And we also report our, you can say the plane contrast, you can see in here, reveal that have any dose of Viagra significant increase libido compared to have a placebo. You can see is 2.9474 and the P value is the 0.029, but at high dose didn't significant increase libido compared to have a low dose. And this T is the negative 2.029 and the P value is a 0.065. Okay. And the later effect reflect the smallest sample size because this group may give rise to the large effect. Okay, finish that question. We go to another Untitled Test 3. Okay. This question. I read a story in a newspaper recently claiming that the scientists have discovered that the chemical gelatin, which is naturally occurs in soya, was linked to lower sperm count in Western male. In fact, when you read the actual study, it had been conducted on rats. It found no link to lower sperm count, but there is the evidence of abnormal sexual development in male rats, probably because this chemical acts like estrogen, and the journalists naturally interpret this as a clear link to apparently declined sperm count in the Western male. Bloody journalists. Anyway, as a vegetarian, we eat lots of soya product and probably would like to have kids on one day. Image. I want to test this idea in humans rather than rats. I took 80 males and split them into 4 groups that vary in number of soya meal, and they ate per week over a year-long period. The first group was control group and they had no soya meal at all per week. And the second group had 1 soya meal per week. Okay. And the third group had 4 soya per week. And the final group had 7 soya meal in a week. At the end of the year, all the participants were sent away to produce some sperm that I could count. Data below. Okay. So you can enter this data into this SPSS and this the data onto this. This is the sperm that the folder have this SPSS file, and he asked are you the data normal distributed? with the assumption of homogeneity or variance made. Carry out one-way ANOVA to find out whether testing affects burn count. Test for the linear trend and do post-hoc test, which group different from which. And another answer will be found on the okay. So this table in here, and no soya, 1 soya, 4 and 4 soya mean. Okay. So let's open this sperm. Okay. Yeah. Oh, so soya seed is soya. Oh, the soya. The name is soya. Okay. Here is the no soya and 1 and 4 and 7. So this file name is not sperm, is soya. Okay. So I put in the with 14 is soya. Okay. Okay. So this data have 3 variables and the sperm and the rank. Okay. So you can see compare this one. Sperm must be yeah, this is. Okay, so let's run the Anova test and analyze. And the compare means and the one-way Anova. Okay. And the dependent variable is sperm count. And the factor is the number of soya mean. Okay. And the contrast and the polynomial and is the quantity. Okay, so this we have the 4 and we can have the 2 and the 2 negative 2 and 1 negative 1 and 0 and 0 1 negative 1. Okay, and post hoc and this one and okay, and the first against Howard. Okay, continue, and the option is described based on which in the mean plot. and no full spread. Okay. So we can see the output. The first one, this is the descriptive, okay? Because it suggests a soya intake increase, sperm count decrease, predict. You can see the soya increase and the sperm, you can sperm decrease, okay? And the next part is out at the Anova. You can see the Variance test. This is the the mean is significant, okay? And the median is significant, okay? The next Anova, the output the main Anova summary table issue out routine look at the robust F. And you can see this is the non-significant, okay? It's below the 0.05. So you see but the linear, you see the linear is this is the significant, okay? And you see the words is the significant. The vote is significant, okay? Okay, so this is the okay. And this is the chart, okay? So you can see that the sperm is decreased, okay? And next, we will see the tumors, okay? So we open the tumor, okay? Is SPSS file. Well, let's first read a question. People love their mobile phone, which rather worry given some recent controversy about link between mobile phone use and the brain tumors. The basic idea is the mobile phone emits microwave and so holding one next to your brain for large part of the day is a bit like stick your brain in a microwave or oven and select the cook until well done button. If you want to test the experimentally, we could get 6 groups of people and strap a mobile phone on their hand. They cannot remove control. We turn the phone on. So for a certain amount of time each day, after 6 months, we measure the size of any tumor close to the side of the phone antenna. The 6th group experienced 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours per day of phone microwave for 6 months. Data are below. And this example is so it's a detailed answer. You can enter the data into SPSS, and this is the data, the files, the tumor.sav are data normal distributed and assumption homogeneity, okay, and the one-way ANOVA, okay. So this is the data we can check in here, okay. So we have the two variables, and this first one is the mobile phone use per day hour, okay. So we have the 6 group and the size of tumor, okay. So you can see that. Okay, so let's run the Anova one-way ANOVA test analyze and compare means and the one-way ANOVA, and the size of tumor is a dependent variable, and the mobile phone use, okay, and the country. Oh. And the post hoc, EG, or the gains hall, the first linear, and the option descriptive based on homogeneity with mean plot, and the option, okay, and the okay. Okay, first one, you see the descriptive. The first part outcome show the table descriptive statistics from the one-way ANOVA, and we can see the mean, standard deviation, the standard error of the mean for each experiment condition. The mean should correspond to those plot in the graph. Okay. And the next part output of main ANOVA, and you see the test homogeneity is significant. Okay, size of tumor is the ANOVA is significant. And we should routinely look at the robust, because the observed significance of whales is less than the 0.05. We can say that there is a significant effect of mobile phone on the size of tumor. However, at this stage, we still don't know exactly what the effect of phone was. We don't know which group differed, okay. Okay, so in here, okay, so we can see in here, okay, difference, multiple comparison. Okay, because I have no specific hypothesis, we just carry out post hoc test and start my favorite. Okay, you can see the so you can see the 1 hour, a 0 hour compared to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hour group, and reveal a significant difference in all cases. Okay, just this one. Okay, and in the next part of the table 1 hour group is compared to other group, and all is just one is significant, except is 0 this group, and in fact all the comparison appear to highly significant except the comparison between you can see the this the 0 is the one group, and the 0 and the 4 group between the 5 and between the 0 and the 1 and between the 1 and the 0 and between the 4 and the 5 is the insignificant. Okay,